Last night on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here on KDKA+. Bob Pompeani riding solo with you tonight. Andrew Filipponi not here. He'll be back tomorrow night. In the meantime, we have open boards until 11 o'clock at 412-575-2600 after a very invigorating Steelers win. Back-to-back games in the 30s. An offense that looked like a regular offense, or one that can at least compete with some of the other offenses in the NFL. And I say that with all due respect to Justin Fields, who did a very good job in his 6 games. I think he made progress here in Pittsburgh based on what we saw in Chicago. There still needs work to be done in his passing game, but Mike Tomlin had a feeling that this was something that he wanted to unlock. The passing game. It had to be frustrating because they've had so many of these kind of games which have turned into 6 field goals, 18-16, 18-15, 21-18. And they battle just to win those games, and it puts the defense certainly on notice. They can't afford to make mistakes, and they have to come up with turnovers, and they've done that. They did it in Vegas last week, and they did it again last night. One of the bigger plays was Beanie Bishop with the interception over the middle right before halftime, because if you consider the circumstances at that time, it was 15-6 Jets. They had the ball. There was not a lot of energy with the Steelers at that point. And if they turn that into 3 to make it 18-6, or even worse, a touchdown to make it 21-6, they got the second half kickoff, and so it would have been a whole different dynamic. That play triggered an offense, and then Russell Wilson and company went to work. They got a pass interference call. They also ended that half on a touchdown. So what looked like 18-6 potentially, or 21-6, turned out to be 15-13. And then it was the first of 31 unanswered points by the Pittsburgh Steelers. When was the last time we've seen anything like that? But it was a lot of play action. It was a lot of things that you like to see. And Russell Wilson, quite frankly, they brought him here because he has the experience. The bottom line is he's decisive about what he's going to do. It took him a while, and there were a lot of boos in that game last night. I was a little surprised by that because you had to expect there was going to be some rust on Russell Wilson, and there was. And then he got it together at the end of that first half. They had some momentum. And then the second half, it was all him and them in the run game and the offensive line. Got to point that out. The offensive line with so many young kids making a difference in that game, and they seemed confident as the game went on. Ryan McCollum did a great job at center. You have Mason McCormick over at right guard. All these injuries to the O-line, and yet they played a very good game, I thought, against a front of the New York Jets that could be difficult to play against. I will say this, if you believe in Pro Football Focus grades, they, so far, have given Justin Fields better numbers in his 6th game on average than they did with Russell Wilson last night. So, I mean, there are going to be some games that are going to not go the way you want in the pass game, but at least, you see guys like Van Jefferson getting involved, Calvin Austin, Darnell Washington. He moved it around at a lot of different players. I think that's important, and it's the value of a guy who's had a long NFL career. 412-575-2600. You know that's the number to call. Hit me up on Twitter at KDPomp. We're also going to get into, if you'd like to talk about the Penguins and some of their problems, they got a goalie controversy and a very strange answer from Mike Sullivan today about why Tristan Jarry was a scratch yesterday. He did not suit as the backup. It was Blomqvist backing up Nedeljkovic. And yet today he said it wasn't a scratch. It's part of their plan to try to rehabilitate him. Can he be rehabilitated? They need him to be back where he was a couple of years ago. They need him to be that Tristan Jarry. Otherwise, they're stuck with that entire contract, even if they should move on from him. All right, this is our GMC Sierra's tweet of the night. Comes from NFL and CBS. Most passing yards in the Steelers' debut since 1940. That's Russell Wilson with 264. Only quarterback to lead the Steelers to 30-plus points in his first opportunity. Of course, he's a veteran, so you would expect that from him. Some of his better games in Seattle were big games like this. But that's a pretty good night at the office for a quarterback who hadn't played in 11 months, and I thought there'd be some patience with him, but apparently not early in the game. People were wondering what was going on and why couldn't he do more in that first half. They were 0 for 6 on the first 6 third-down conversions. Second half, totally different story. By the way, Baltimore is doing a very good job tonight for them. They are beating up on Tampa Bay 34-16. That's in the fourth quarter. Lamar Jackson has 4 touchdown passes in that game. Derrick Henry has over 100 yards plus an 81-yard run. That team is still, to me, the team to beat, and the Steelers got their work cut out for them And they've done well against them over the years. We'll see what happens later in the year when all these AFC North games go head-to-head. All right, let's get to the lines. Lots of them. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night. We just showed you that. Now it's time for our number one Cochrane Go One Better caller of the night. And we'll begin with John in Perrysville. Hello, John. How are you?
Pretty good, Bob. Thank you very much for having me tonight. Hey, a couple things I want to say about the game last night is what was great to see is the team is meshing. The team is finally coming together and everything. It doesn't matter if Fields is in there or whether Wilson is in there. It's like back in the 70s and 80s when we had good quarterbacks, we had good backups and everything. It didn't really matter too much. The team was able to play with each and every one of them the way that they played, the way that they had the ball. My concern is they're going to be playing a tough game next week. It's going to be kind of a sibling game, Rooney, between the teams. Then we're going to take a break, and then we go into a 4-game divisional playoffs, or 4 games that we have to really, it's going to be tough. Do you think they're going to be able to keep the substantial going on with them, with taking that break and then coming back in for the?
Well, I think it comes at a good time, actually. The bye, basically halfway through the season. If you had to schedule it that way, that's what you would want. You wouldn't want it early. Later is okay, I suppose, but you may, go through a lot of attrition up until that date. So I think it's a perfect opportunity for them to get some rest and then look at what lies ahead, which begins with the Washington football team and Jaden Daniels, who should be ready to play. He got some rib injuries yesterday. Not sure the extent of it, but it doesn't appear to be serious. And earlier today, we told you, too, that Deshaun Watson's out for the year. And how about Brandon Ayuk? The 49ers have all sorts of problems, by the way. Christian McCaffrey now has an Achilles. He's been out for a while, won't be coming back anytime soon. Looks like Deebo Samuel has pneumonia. He's undetermined when he'll come back. George Kittle has a foot injury. That team is falling apart out there at San Francisco, and they're 3-4 to start the season. But it's a tough schedule. They're going to have to come up with big plays and big times. You say there's not much of a difference between Fields and Russell Wilson. There is. The difference is unlocking the passing game, and that's why Mike Tomlin made this deal. He wanted to, and he always said this about winning more fluidly. That's what he means. They need points. You can't survive in the NFL with all this offense and some of the teams that can put big numbers like we're seeing tonight with Baltimore or Kansas City or Buffalo. Buffalo's a team that I would really watch. You got to be able to combat them from time to time, and I think Russell Wilson gives him more of that opportunity to do that. All right, let's go to Mark in Ross Township. Joins us right now on KDK+. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Bob. Just wanted to say I was listening to you this afternoon on the fan, and I heard you say that I forget if you said you forgot there were 14 rookies on the 74 Super Bowl Steelers, or you didn't remember it, or you didn't know that.
Well, I didn't know there were that many. I forgot. I forgot the composition of that roster.
Right. Yeah, and I immediately thought back to that year. There was a players' strike from the end of July till like August 10th, and some of those games some of the preseason games. They had 6 back then. They were played with all rookies, and Chuck Noll got an extended look at some of those guys who might otherwise have been cut.
Right.
But he, it's kind of like when Mike Sullivan came up and brought all the young guys from Wilkes-Barre up with him. He knew those guys, so Chuck had a chance to get to know those guys in a way that he wouldn't in a normal season. With
yeah, that's a great point.
They got a lot of playing time.
Great point, Mark. And the other thing that turned out is that Joe Gilliam impressed him enough that he was the starting quarterback. He goes 4-1-1 in his first 6 games, and he gets yanked for Terry Bradshaw, who later got yanked for Terry Hanratty. He went back to Bradshaw. So there was a lot of that stuff going on, and yeah, the player strike had a lot to do with that. Thank you for the call. They had a great dinner at Acrisure Stadium the other night, the alumni dinner. I was honored to be the MC. We had a lot of those guys reminiscing on some of those big moments from 1974. Let's go to Kirk in Harmer Township. Hey, Kirk.
Hi, Bob. How you doing, buddy? You're the best.
Thanks for calling, man.
Bob, I've been sharing views and observations with you now for nearly 9 years, and I tell you, you also must know that I hand out compliments like I toss around manhole covers. This Steeler defense is so cohesive. They are so fierce. They are playing shut-down football to the likes of which I haven't seen in over 15 years. They're just phenomenal. You've heard me say oftentimes that these organized sports, basketball, football, hockey, it's symphonic. You've got to heat the tone and hit the B in tune and have your instrument flying all at the same time, or you screw up the song.
Yeah, I mean, listen, their defense, and thank you for the call, man. I appreciate it, and thanks for being a viewer here for all those years. We appreciate that. But if they stay healthy, they have a very good defensive line that has gotten some performances for guys like Benton and, of course, Hayward. Montrevious Adams, when he's been in there, has done some good things on others. Loudermilk has come up. We even saw Dean Lowry last night on special teams get a hand on a kick, and that was a big play in that game as well. So, but you think Deshaun Elliott has come in, a former Raven, and boy, he's been their most sure tackler. Beanie Bishop undrafted. They're going to have Cam Sutton back for the second half of the year. Now, the cornerback situation is an interesting one because it's not as deep as other positions. Dante Jackson is now injured. They have activated C.J. Henderson, a former #1 pick of Jacksonville. He'll be, probably getting a hat this Monday night coming up against the Giants. So you got to stay away from injuries, but overall, they're good enough to keep teams in the teens when it comes to points. And if their offense is scoring in the 20s, it's a pretty good combination there. Jimmy in Point Breeze joins us right now on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, Pom. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Hey,
What's up?
I tried to ask you this a couple nights ago, but I think you misunderstood my question.
Okay.
So, if with the conditional draft pick that is Justin Fields, if he plays more than 50% of the snaps, it goes from a 6th-round pick to a 4th-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
If the Steelers were to trade a 4th-round pick for a receiver, whoever that might be, what happens then to the compensation that they are due to the Chicago Bears if Justin Fields then crosses that plateau and has played more than 50%?
That's a good question. I'm not sure how the answer goes on that one. They can also trade a 2025 or 2026 4th-round pick. They can do stuff like that to get away from that if it is a problem. Honestly, I don't know the answer to it, but I do know that Justin Fields was well on his way to getting that, more than 50%. And now that may not happen, but we'll see. It's a long season. Injuries can occur. Things can change, as they have in the favor of Russell Wilson, so keep tuned for that. But it is a good question. Thank you. Let's go out to Rex in South Park. Rex, how you doing?
Pomp.
Rex.
Pomp, I haven't seen you since I left town.
Where are you now?
I'm out in, by South Hills Village. I've been out there for like the last 4 years.
Well, listen, because you left town, Rex, I haven't been able to go over and get my shoe shine. You're one of the best in the business, so I don't know what to do. I can't travel that far just to do that.
I'm going to have to make up a pickup service down there for you, Pomp.
You have a great service. So how's the business out there? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Good.
The nature of my call is I'm driving to work this morning. I listen to you guys, and you start talking about naming the jump over the wall.
Yeah, Najee Harris is the best number the best name we got was Pittsburgh Plunge.
That was me.
Was that you? I didn't know that. Okay, that's a great one. And that I put a little Twitter poll out there, Rex, and thank you for calling. And that's what is leading so far at 40%. We also had Jagoff Jump. We had a few others on there. There were some good ones. I got to go over the list because there was too many for me to remember. But if they have to name it, who knows if they will or won't. We were having some fun with that, but I thought Pittsburgh Plunge was a very good one. Ravens continue to add to their lead. Lamar Jackson's won 2 MVPs, and he's a good, solid choice to get another one. So far tonight in Tampa, 17 of 22, 5 touchdowns, 281 yards. On top of that, Derrick Henry. And what a deal that was, picking him up. The guy never misses games, and he's still very prolific in what he does. He has 15 carries for 169 yards, and he also has an 81-yard run in there. He's got speed, he's got power, he's got it all. It's a very good team right now. They're winning 41-18 at Tampa. Let's go back to the lines. Kirk and Manor. What's up, Kirk? How are you?
How you doing today, Bob? Hey, I just wanted to ask you. It was eerie to hear the Cleveland Browns fans cheering when Deshaun Watson got hurt.
Yeah, I didn't like that. You could have your feelings about Deshaun Watson. I thought it was a terrible signing. I thought he all the wrong reasons to sign him, and I think Jimmy Haslam is getting his karma there because that happened. But when a guy's injured like that, there's no reason for it. It's just courtesy, I think, more than anything else. Now, my feelings for him do not change. I think he's a guy who has a lot of problems. I wouldn't have touched him if I were them, but they did because they were desperate. They've gone through a million quarterback combinations over the years, and they haven't hit one. And he was the owner more than anybody wanted to change that. He thought he had somebody who could revitalize what he had before all these allegations, and he didn't, and he's bad. I still think he's a terrible quarterback now. he hasn't gotten any in there. Yesterday, he had one of his better games going, ironically, at 15 of 17, I think, at the time of his injury. But, yeah, I don't think you need to boo him or I think they had a chant up there that goes, "You deserve it," which, all right, fine. But you don't have to do that, not on that day during that injury where he's being carted off. All right, Penguins, as I said, Mike Sullivan had an interesting take today. He did not call Tristan Jarry a healthy scratch. He said it's part of the plan. He hasn't played 2 straight days. And, to me, I think you got to play him. I don't think there's any way to get him better and back on track. You can have him sit a couple of games or whatever, but eventually you got to play him, if for no other reason, to try to get him back on track. So if you want to deal him, you have more opportunity to do that. And you can, you look to other teams and say, hey, he's rekindled it. Maybe we can make a deal if you want to. But I still think the best thing for them is to get him back on track, play him, and hope he turns it around. That's because they owe him for 3 more years at $5.37 million a year. And if you want to get your opinion heard, don't forget to tune in to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call tonight at 10:35 on KDKA+. So give us a call at 412-575-2600. We do it every night after the 10 o'clock news. For CBS News Pittsburgh, I'm Bob Pompeani.